In 2016, two women met each other and quickly formed a friendship. They bonded over several common interests, one of which was extremely disturbing. This dangerous duo would eventually turn their horrific fantasies into reality. This is the heartbreaking case of Aaron Pajich. Make sure to watch till the end so you don't miss any of the chilling details. We all have different hobbies, from cooking to reading to playing an instrument, you name it. However, some people are interested in things that are a bit on the darker side. This was the case with Gemma Lilly, a 24-year-old girl living in the Australian city of Perth. Although Gemma lived in Australia, she was born and raised in the county of Lincolnshire in England. She had a troubled childhood and grew up in a household that was abusive. It is reported that when Gemma was younger, her mother abandoned the family in order to join a cult. Gemma regularly used the internet as an escape from her troubled home life. She spent so much time online and eventually developed an obsession with things that were quite gory. In particular, she became fascinated with horror films, torture methods, and serial killers. This fascination led her to write her very own novel called Playzone around the age of 15. The book was about a serial killer and cult leader called SOS, whose followers were called maggots and would carry out various murders in his name. It is believed that the name SOS was inspired by real-life serial killer David Berkowitz, who was also known as Son of Sam. However, this wasn't just a character that she created for her novel. Gemma would sometimes call herself SOS in real life, in reference to her darker alter ego. Her father even said that when she was angry, she'd warn everyone that SOS is coming out. But the Son of Sam was only one of the people who inspired Gemma's disturbing interests. It is said that Gemma also idolized serial killers like John Wayne Gacy and the movie character Freddy Krueger from the Nightmare on Elm Street series. Gemma's obsessions got even stronger when she moved to Australia, and they started to become more evident in her personal life. In 2010, Gemma married one of her Australian friends in order to gain permanent residency in Australia. The wedding ceremony was horror-themed. Gemma dressed up as TV serial killer Dexter, her father dressed as the killer Freddy Krueger from A Nightmare on Elm Street, and her husband dressed up as serial killer John Wayne Gacy. But Gemma's dark interests also made their way into the bedroom. One of her former partners described her sexual habits as heavily motivated by sadism. It is reported that she enjoyed cutting partners with a small knife and choking them during sex. Gemma's husband tragically passed away a few years after their marriage. However, his friend introduced Gemma to Trudy Lennon, who was a friend of Gemma's late husband. Trudy and Gemma hit it off immediately and became fast friends. Sadly, no one could have guessed that this friendship would have led to the horror that it did. Even though Trudy and Gemma formed a friendship so quickly, their lifestyles were actually quite different. Trudy was 20 years older than Gemma and had 2 kids. She was also engaged to be married. Despite these differences, both women had one thing in common: their fascination with the darker side of life. Trudy enjoyed collecting knives. She was also a member of the local BDSM community and identified as a submissive. A submissive, or sub, is a sexual participant who willingly gives up some or all of their control to a dominant partner. However, Trudy's subservient nature was not just restricted to her sex life. Within her friendship with Gemma, Trudy was described as the follower. She did what was required of her and essentially followed Gemma's direction. Gemma, on the other hand, was the leader and the more dominant one in the friendship. While Trudy's friendship with Gemma was blossoming, her relationship was suffering. Her engagement was called off and she started to lose her financial stability. Her financial struggles prevented her from taking proper care of her home, and caused her housing conditions to deteriorate. When Gemma visited Trudy's home in May of 2016 and saw the terrible condition of the house, she offered to move Trudy and her sons into her home. Trudy agreed and moved into Gemma's house shortly after. Them living together would only strengthen their bond and make them more dangerous. The two women had already been sharing homicidal fantasies in conversations and in online messages. In fact, one particular horrifying exchange shows the two friends declaring themselves ready to kill. One day, Gemma sent Trudy a message that said, "I feel as though I cannot rest until the blood or flesh of a screaming victim is gushing out and pooling on the floor. I cannot shift this belief that the world has become not only ready for me, but it needs me to be ready." Trudy then replied, saying, "It is definitely time. I am ready. You are ready." Only 13 days later, they would bring their bizarre plan to fruition. When deciding who their first victim would be, Trudy selected 18-year-old Aaron Pajich. He was an easy target because Trudy knew him from before and could get him to trust her. Aaron studied at a vocational college with Trudy's 14-year-old son and also enjoyed playing computer games with him. On the morning of June 13th, 2016, Trudy called Aaron and invited him to her house. She told him that she needed help installing the new software on her computer and offered to sell him some video games. Aaron's landlord, Adrienne, overheard him on the phone and decided to help him meet up with Trudy. Around 10 a.m., Adrienne dropped Aaron off at a shopping center to meet Gemma and Trudy. CCTV outside of the shopping center showed Aaron getting into Trudy and Gemma's car and the vehicle driving away. Although Trudy selected Aaron because of her familiarity with him, this wasn't the only reason why she chose him to be their victim. Aaron had Asperger syndrome, which is often considered a high-functioning form of autism. It can lead to difficulty interacting socially, repeat behaviors, and clumsiness. This condition made Aaron quite vulnerable, and Trudy wanted to take advantage of that. When all three of them arrived at the house, there was a sign on the gate that said Elm Street. This was their way of welcoming Aaron to his nightmare as they prepared to unleash horror upon him. As soon as they got inside the house, Gemma jumped Aaron from behind and tried to strangle him with a cord. However, the cord snapped, and that is when things escalated further. Trudy sprang into action and pinned Aaron to the floor, while Gemma stabbed him 3 times, twice in the neck and once in the chest. The nature of Aaron's injuries caused him to die almost immediately. After brutally killing him, the women moved Aaron's body to a specially prepared room with a white tiled floor that was lined with blue tarpaulins. It also contained a gurney and a bright red utility cupboard. Then, they buried him in a shallow grave in their backyard. Not long after the murder, Trudy's son unknowingly covered his friend's grave with concrete and red indoor tiles. Burying Aaron in the backyard seemed to be a spur-of-the-moment decision, as this is not what Gemma and Trudy initially planned. In the weeks leading up to the murder, Gemma and Trudy shopped at a hardware store on 3 separate occasions to buy a circular saw, bleach, cement, a drop sheet, a large plastic barrel, and some acetone. The day before they killed Aaron, they bought a total of 100 liters of hydrochloric acid from separate stores in Perth. It is clear that the two friends originally intended to dismember Aaron's body and dissolve his remains in acid, but later changed their mind. Aaron's landlady, Adrienne, noticed that he didn't come home the next day and wasn't answering any of her calls and text messages. She got worried and reported him missing. Days had gone by, and there was still no sign of Aaron, so the police started investigating his disappearance. Upon checking his phone records, they found out that the last call he received came from Trudy, and that led them right to her doorstep on June 20th. A subsequent search of the house not only revealed Aaron's body, but dozens of knives, a bone saw, scalpels, a machete, and an alphabetized handwritten list of torture techniques. In addition to all this evidence, police also found CCTV footage that had been recorded by Gemma's own home security setup. She had set up security cameras to keep an eye on her motorcycle collection. Little did she know, that same security system would capture her movements as she and her accomplice carried out their heinous crime. The footage showed Aaron entering the back door of the house with Gemma and Trudy about 10 a.m. on the day he died. Around 10:30 a.m., footage showed Trudy leaving the house and entering again, carrying a large knife inside a sheath. The CCTV was later switched off. Both women were arrested immediately and brought in for questioning. Interestingly, they both turned on each other and accused one another of the murder. Gemma claimed that she was sleeping when Trudy murdered him. Trudy said she witnessed Gemma killing Aaron, and the only thing she did was to help conceal the crime. The murder trial lasted 5 weeks. Gemma spent 5 days on the stand, while Trudy did not say a word. Gemma even claimed that the intense, murder-themed exchanges she and Trudy shared were merely role-playing for a new book. However, the trial would not only prove that Gemma was a liar, but that she was a deeply disturbed young woman. One of Gemma's co-workers, named Matthew Stray, testified that she confessed the murder to him 5 days after killing Aaron. Matthew said she sounded excited as she described what she had done to Aaron. She was also very arrogant and told him that the police were so dumb and would not catch her. Matthew told Gemma that he would have to report what she told him to the police, but she threatened that if he did, she might have to make the problem go away. Later that day, she sent text messages to Matthew suggesting that she had made up the story. But it was too late because Matthew had already gone to the police. But it doesn't end there. Another one of Gemma's co-workers reported that Gemma expressed a desire to not only take a life before she turned 25, but take murder off her bucket list. The prosecutor believed that Gemma murdered Aaron for the euphoria and the exhilaration of it. These frightening revelations disturbed the jury so much that it only took them 2.5 hours to find both women guilty. Gemma and Trudy did not appear to feel any remorse for what they had done. The judge overseeing the case said Gemma sent a message to Trudy saying that she felt incredibly empowered the day after killing Aaron. Both women were sentenced to life in prison with a non-parole period of 28 years. While in prison, Trudy was attacked twice. In one instance, another inmate poured a container of boiling water over her. She spent some time in the hospital but survived the attack. Gemma, on the other hand, decided to appeal her conviction. In the end, she was unsuccessful and her appeal was denied. Aaron's family members were in court for the decision, and they said they were happy that Gemma's appeal had been rejected and she would remain in jail. His stepmother, Veronica, said she hoped the two women would rot, but also that they would live to regret what they had done. Do you have a strange or disturbing incident that you'd like us to cover? Send us an email at veryweirdish@gmail.com and let us know what you think about the case of Aaron Pajich in the comments below. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you. We appreciate you sticking through that story because we know it was difficult to hear. If you're interested in more content like this, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel. We cover all things weird, mysterious, dark, and disturbing every week. And remember, the world is a scary place where the monsters are walking among us. So stay safe out there, and we'll see you in the next one.